in two-day webinar on next generation defense technologies organized by University School of Information and Communication Technology and University School of Engineering. This is track number 12, and in this track we have two speakers, Brigadier Raj Kumar and Anand Prakash. Now I would like to invite Professor P.K. Yadav, Dean, School of Engineering, to welcome our
afternoon, Kash. Yes, part of the process.
कृति मैम प्रेजेंटेशन स्टार्ट करा देते
मैम started.
Before you and there is well.
Can I start? Go ahead. Can I go ahead?
Sir, your voice is not clear.
Is it okay now? Is it better? Is it better?
Yes, sir. Sir, your voice is okay, but Yadav sir voice is not clear. He is not audible.
Anyhow, now I take on from Dr. Yadav.
I don't know whether I am audible to you.
I'm audible to you.
Yes, sir. Now you are audible, sir.
I'm audible. I'm
Okay.
audible. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Fine.
good afternoon to you all
We are having
of
terrific rain outside. That could be one of the things that may have disturbed the communication process. But anyway, Brigadier Raj Kumar, I welcome you with open heart, and also Dr. Anand Prakash, who comes from DRDO. I have the pleasure and honor to extend a warm welcome to Brigadier Raj Kumar. We had some golden days for almost 7 to 8 years at our stay in Bareilly, where he, right from, you see, he was colonel and then advanced into brigadiership and later on shifted to Hyderabad. And you will he progressed over time. Right now, he's professor teaching different areas. His area of interest has been districts, has been very close to his heart. So I also extend a very warm welcome to Dr.
when we want to say that if you have to replenish a soldier, what is this? What is the fundamental guiding principles you follow? In the corporate world, it is different, no stock situation, something like that. But in the combat areas, what is the fundamental tenet of a logistics for a soldier at the ground level? I really love that particular phrase. It has come from the British manuals. It says a soldier should not look back. A soldier should not look back over his shoulder, waiting for the ammunition to come. Are you able to see my face, body? The body language says a soldier need not to look over his shoulder, looking for the ammunition to come. Like we in the medical services during the last 3-4 months, a patient should not be looking over the wards, waiting for the oxygen cylinder to come. That is what the logistics is all about. You have to be proactive. So that is life and death. In the similar cases, if you want a victory, for fundamental rule is that the soldier should not be looking back for his. And we always say that the vehicles dominated for the supply of ammunition cannot be diverted anywhere. You cannot divert a vehicle which is meant for ammunition. There is no formal indents required. Anybody can give a small purchase, say, मेरे को ये 12 ton का ammunition दे दो, उनके पास आएगा तो दे दे. So design a logistics for such organizations, such institutions is a very, very, very important critical activity. So you need to understand that logistics is one of the biggest component of fighting war machines. I have served in the logistics for almost 35 years. I have done at the operating level, at the depot level, the frontier level, at the middle level as a planner, and at the highest level in the army headquarters as a strategist. I used to take care of strategic logistics in the whole of Rajasthan and Gujarat. And similarly, the whole of South India, I used to handle the requirement of the Army, Navy, Air Force. All the 3 services I used to take part. So imagine the amount of logistical activities that we have to perform. Now, what is more compelling is, now the buck is constant. You can't ask for more and more money. And you want to be cost effective. You cannot say that I want more and more resources. The best thing is to optimize the resources that you already have. So keeping that in mind, the logisticians have developed a doctrine, a philosophy, a plan, a process, a concept, a procedure, and a standard operating procedure, starting from the army headquarters in Delhi right up to the glacier in Ladakh. So now what we happened is, about 20 years back, they said we have a revolution in military affairs. The combat doctrine changed, combat doctrine thoroughly changed. And we were in Bareilly, we were actually figuring out how the doctrine should change. When the RMA came in, then came the RML. But the change in the military affairs, a synchronized revolution in military logistics was also required. And for that, a large amount of study was carried out. But what is today happening? If you look at the Fortune 500 companies, Amazon is the number 4, rightly so. And he says in the prelude, he says it is all because of technology they have moved from one slot to the other. To move from one slot from the fifth position to the 4th position, billions of dollars have to be turned over. And where is the advantage they derived? It's technology. It is the technology that has made them the difference. If you want to have a combat edge in this country, in the military affairs, then probably you have to leverage technology thoroughly. And technology absorption, as you all know, is not an easy activity to take place because the system is highly bureaucratic, and to change the norms, it takes a lot of time. Most of you are partially aware of this, but very important is when you have a technology on the shelves, to move the technology into the depots, into the vehicles, into the frontier takes a lot of time. The lead time is phenomenal. But what phenomenal changes have taken place, I'll tell you. The emerging systems in the logistics is simply superb. Gentlemen, you'll be surprised to know that the Indians, we used to place 3 days before the actual requirement of particular perishables. That has compressed. The lead time for various armaments have reduced. And the technology which is there outside is now we are able to absorb them very quickly. Another important thing that you will face is that how are you going to integrate? How are you going to integrate the 3 services? The Navy in the same station, the Army in the same station, the Air Force in the same station. They've got a logistics senior logistics officer, there's a logistics officer here, there's a brigadier here. All 3 people have to be enmeshed, they have to be integrated. Otherwise, it is very difficult. Dr. Yadav's brother is also in the Navy, and he knows quite a bit about the Navy. And I, and he also seen the Army, so he knows quite a bit about the Army too. So he's a wonderful man as far as logistics is concerned. And in the pharma industry, he's basically from the pharma background. And in the pharma industry, I've seen it happening in Hyderabad. I told people that the country will be able to manage the mammoth task of vaccination because of logistics resilience. You tell anybody in Punjab or anywhere, he says, "Sab ho jayega." The medicine will come. It will go to the patient and be delivered. And we got such wonderful brains, such alacrity, such dynamism. All these things are there in our country, and we will be able to deliver that. And I was very confident that you see that vaccine is in the queuing theory. We say that either the customer is waiting or the service is waiting. In this case, the services don't have to wait. The customer is waiting. The customer doesn't have to wait. The services say that, where are my customers? Where are my patients? That is the situation we have reached. So similarly, we can transform this philosophy, this thought from the customer service orientation to the customer orientation or the patient orientation. When this pandemic came out, I was very particular that I should use one tenet of logistics. It says a patient should not be looking through the corridors of the hospital waiting for the oxygen cylinder to come. You understand? We do not have to wait for the cylinder to come to the patient. Do not need to wait at all. And that is the philosophy we always have to think of in future. And I published an article about pooling of the national resources for leveraging the defense forces. When we find that, look at the case of this pandemic, and we're looking for hospitals, we're looking for warehouses. All this database would have been there, probably we would have been able to deliver much more better than this. So now the topic is, as you are aware, emerging logistics and resource management in defense. So what is this logistics is all about? German logistics includes what all? The most important thing is the transportation. Troops have to move. Troops have to go to the combat zone, fight there, move forward. So fundamentally, you must say that our logistics importance is the transportation. Then you have the inventory, then you have the warehousing, then you have the infrastructure. And all these components, physical components can be there. But what is the fundamental principle that we're going to apply that? We always, next slide, ma'am. Just move next slide. Kirti, can you move the next slide? Yeah. Application of technology. Now, this is what the mandate given to us. The university, it says, India has realized the potential of the technological warfare, and hence India will be procuring 150 billions of dollars of arms, ammunition, and equipment over the next 5 years, and it aims to export it. So, in addition to what we are going to import, we're going to, like in the business, when we talk about international business, we always look at the balance of payments. You remember? So, similarly, we should be able to export more and import less, and we will be self-reliant. And that's a mandate given to us by the government and by the nation. Technological advancements will enable us to forefront in exporting smart weapons and technologically advanced vehicles in Army, in Air Force, and the Navy. Just turn it on. Next slide, please. Yeah, sorry, this was to come earlier. Anyway, I thanked the next, please. Yeah, so this is what is the logistics all about. I say that a logistics should be able to provide the movement for a soldier, where he wants, when he wants, the fastest means to reach the place of combat. If गाड़ी time पे पहुंच गया, if the combat elements can reach at the right on time, then probably we've done that job. So logisticians have a bigger role to play. When I was in Kargil, I used to tell the people when they land up in Leh, I was used to sit on the airfield, and the moment those troops used to come, I said, the transport is here, your food is here, your petroleum is here, ammunition is here. This is the place you have to go. I would not allow them to stay more than 2 hours on the airfield. The tarmac has to be cleared. I said, you have to leave, the next aircraft will come, the next troops will come. So the philosophy which I adopted, the speed is very important. If the soldier reaches a little later than he should have been, then probably you lose the war there. So speed is alacrity, as you both. That's what you talk about. Velocity is the speed in which all the equipment and other things kept moving. But transparency is very, I find the transparency in the corporate environment is phenomenal. It is simply phenomenal. I wanted to buy a Honda City car and the chap said grey color is available. But it is keyed and he said, it's crossing Nagpur, sir, by tomorrow evening 6 o'clock it should be there. I was buying a shirt for myself in Pune, and I went to a store and a particular brand, which Will's brand was there. He says, "The 42 size we don't have, but I can check where you stay in Hyderabad." I said, "Stay in Begumpet." He keyed in. I found out in the Begumpet store 42 was there. He blocked it. The transparency is very important. Where is the equipment right now? When is it going to reach us, and when we are going to deploy them? Every movement of the equipment should be able to be seen by the owners of the organization. Variety, probably you will find this very important because a particular ammunition is not there. It can, reliability is what I always say, that I tell you that you have to reach a particular place along with this particular ammunition at a particular time, and you find that the soldier is there, the ammunition is there, the equipment is there. And if you don't do this, probably you'll feel that we are unable to actually perform any great justice to the services. So as logistician, I'm a hardcore logistician. I fought the war in Kargil and I've done a marvelous job as far as logistics is concerned. Phenomenal job. I used to stay in Kargil, leave around 7 o'clock in the morning, reach there at 12:31, and then by about 2 o'clock I used to come back, rushing back to Leh at all. I used to drive very, very fast. We were being bombarded from the enemy on the other side in one particular area. So we all say that the important thing is reliability. Flexibility is in case the operations move from Rajasthan to Gujarat, or Gujarat to Rajasthan, Rajasthan to Jammu, Jammu to another place. That flexibility should be there. That's what the principle of administration, principle of logistics say. And gentlemen, you don't understand that the amount of work that we do to get this flexibility is very, very, very critical for all of us. When I touch upon the strategic logistics, I can tell you a lot of some things on this. And probably if I sit with young brains from the college, sitting with the young brains for a college for 2 or 3 months, I will tell them what technologies you have and what technology we require. What technologies you have and what technologies I require. I should be able to utilize the technologies and tell that your brains for me to develop it. There's a big gap, as you all know, but the university are doing a phenomenal job, innovations, entrepreneurship, and all these things are coming up dramatically they're coming. And this particular seminar is a very apt one. It says the emerging technologies should be able to leverage, or when you talk it out in the corporate world, when I say that you have a resource, then you have an asset, then you have a competency, then you have a core competency, then you have a distinctive competency. That's what you teach in the business schools by Dr. Yadav and people. He says you have to get a distinctive competencies with the limited resources that you have. Similar same fundamentals I teach my people in the army. I said the resources are the standard, the resources are the same. I get a unit in Ladakh, I get a unit in Meerut, I may get a unit in Secunderabad. But with the same number of vehicles, the same number of resources, I should be able to leverage and move forward. That's what we say, that you leverage in the corporate environment has to be, gentlemen, you don't know it or not, that anything that happens in the US as far as research is concerned, and it is to be seen by the defense, and the defense feels that it is of no consequence or use to that, then it is released to the corporate world. And when the pandemic came up in the United States, the president has the authority to do a lot of conversion of the medical equipment to treat the patients. He could pass an act on that. He should pass promulgation on that. In our newspapers, it may have been there, but I have not seen it. So you will be able to merge with the corporate world and say that the corporate world is working for the army and the army is working for the corporate world. And this is what Professor Yadav and people know it. He teaches strategy so very well. He teaches strategy so very well. You'll be surprised to know that his ability to do very convincing and cogent explanation of strategy applicable to any level, whether you take it at the middle level or at the top level, any industry segment, he'll be able to tell us on all the things. So now let's move forward. Essentials of logistics are all clear. So when I teach supply chain management, all these are very, very beautifully covered. I teach supply chain management at young officers, young students, mid-level managers, and also the statisticians. So the concept is different. Can you move, Kirti? Next slide, please. Kirti, can you move to the next slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, next slide, next slide, next slide. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, this is what the mandate was given to me when I read the brochure. I said, what a wonderful mandate that is there on the in the world of technology, in the world of institutions, in the world of industry. You see the changes that have taken place here. Artificial intelligence. You go into Amazon store. You go to an Amazon store and you say that you don't carry even a credit card. You don't carry anything at all. You simply go there and then you walk. The machine will read your pupils and identify you. And the moment you go there and pick up a can of jam, and nothing, no billing is required. The jam gets decremented from the stock, and this lady walks out with the jam, and that gets built into a credit account. That's what artificial intelligence will be able to predict when a machinery will be able to will fail, because in the industry, as far as the services are concerned, as the armaments are concerned, we should be able to derive the mean time between failures. Artificial intelligence does that. Robotics and sensors are very essential in today's warfare, and those people in the college can give us this. We are going to utilize Internet of Things is everywhere it is there, but in case we are able to have, if we have a long gap between what is seen in the laboratories of the university and what is the labs that we actually do it, there's a big gap that is existing there. And this seminar will be able to clearly deploy and provide all the required thoughts, concepts, ideas, demands to the institutions and the industry, and there should be no gap at all. Any product that comes to the use in the corporate world should first be used by the defense. So this is all the things that are there. Now each component we have to delve will take a lot of time, and probably in the next future seminars there'll be one seminar exclusively cybersecurity. I saw that it's been wonderfully taught, and all these things get covered, and you have a specific seminar to leverage the knowledge that is there in the corporate environment, to bring it to the defense forces right up to from Lucknow to Ray. It should be able to cover that. That is the amount of interoperability that has to exist between different people. Next slide, please. Yeah. Kirti, next. Yeah. This is what I wanted to cover, but most of it I've explained to you very in an informal manner. Application of management to warfare. Gentlemen, I've written a book. I've written an article in the College of Defense Management. We do a lot of management studies in our colleges, and we spend a lot of money sending people to the colleges. But ultimately, at the end of the course, at the end of the term, end of the program, the knowledge that has been packed up in their brains should be able to come to the into the field of armaments, and that has to be utilized. I've written it about the utilization of operational research for the management of war. I've written a lot of articles on that, and management is the core of it. Luckily, I've done my MBA and I've got a management degree. So when I talk about inventory to my superiors, they are able to listen to me very carefully and say that, yes, this is an area that we have the knowledge, we have already imparted in their brains, and that knowledge has to be utilized to deploy it for the speed and alacrity of the army. That's what we mean by saying that it has to be. Military affairs have taken place in 2005, and then onwards, then the next band of people who started walking along with them. It says, if the RMA is to be utilized, it has to be utilized with the help of RML. If there's no revolution in military logistics, there is no revolution as far as military affairs are concerned. And then we talk about this is a point, gentlemen, very strategic level. Professor Yadav should be able to throw a light on this. He has seen the government, he's seen Delhi, he's seen the state governments, central governments, everything there. When I proposed this particular point, I written an article on that. In this article, it says that I don't know if you can see this book. It just talks about pooling of national resources, and the article says that in case of a war, if we applied what has been written in that, for the pandemic, probably would have been better off. Of course, that's came as a surprise. We didn't know about anything about this virus till for several months. But the infrastructure which is there should be and has been done. Of course, I've seen that in doing it. So we should be absolutely. There's a particular organization called disaster management. Disaster management should have been included along with this. If I say, when I was in Jodhpur, I used to say that we have a lot of earth moving equipment bringing the IG canal, and a lot of canals are being constructed, infrastructure being constructed. You look at the amount of resources that are available in terms of cranes, earth movers, dumpers, big trucks. And when a balloon goes up or a war takes place, we have to pull in all the national resources of all departments. All departments, I mean to say that all hard infrastructure departments. Hard infrastructure department mean the railways, the telecom, roads and buildings, Ministry of Transportation, shipping. These are the hardcore infrastructure organizations, and seamlessly they should be deployed. The government, I recommended that there should be a group of ministers who got the empowered committees, nominated committees when this pandemic took place. Standing committees are there and they sit down together and they got power of the minister concerned. They should be able to deliver, approve all the required infrastructure activities to be pooled together. And I also said in the case of RML, Revolutionary Military Logistics, we have to find the gap between what is required by the army and it has to be deployed quickly. When we went on a triphasic exercises, water, land, and air in Mangalore, when all three services participated, we realized that one of the cranes could not berth there because it was not designed for that. We have bigger ship and that could not land. So we were looking at alternatives where it can actually be berthed. So this sort of a thing requires a lot of proactive thinking, and from the business schools, from the technology institutions, we should be able to do that. Point number 7, strategy of integration of emerging technologies, is what is the core of this seminar is. We talk, and we say that this is to be done, but there has to be a process, a methodology, a system in which what is there. The incubation center in the Gautam Buddha University should be able to reach the base workshops of the army. That's what I mean to say, that the emerging technologies don't require big machinery today. The technologies that you develop, like Microsoft has its development center in Hyderabad. So you don't require a great amount of place. Whatever technologies which you want to develop, the university is there to provide you all the things, I think so. Then probably you have to transfer that knowledge into useful to the logistics of the army. And like Israel does it, every small thing has been fully leveraged to provide the amount of capabilities to the organizations. And smart logistics, I'll quickly cover. National resources intermeshing is what I mean to say, that there has to be no gap at all. That's what is important. When I was in the Kargil war, there were certain components which the normal supply chains would not be able to do it. For a small belt for earth moving equipment in Kargil, I used to take care of those logistics. I said any equipment, any part coming from Chandigarh into the N area, Zirakpur, I'll take the responsibility to make sure that it goes to the recipient very, very quickly. Now, that is what the flexibility I used to maintain in case of war. So that's what, in order to do this, you people have the technologies. You have the technologies, and when you have a startup, you see what is required. And I think so. The government should look at the startup's first requirement is the defense. And then the re-engineering of the logistics support that we are practicing it. I've told you that the lead time has come down. The infrastructure in Ladakh is phenomenally increased. Ladakh used to take 7 days from Srinagar to go to Leh. Now it takes much lesser time. They're able to cover that. And we're able to finish the stocking in 2 months' time. I used to say 5 months. Starting from second week of May to the 30th of October, we used to do stocking for the road closed period. That has come down. So that means the soldier there is very much guaranteed the stocks which he requires, he automatically gets it there. Right? So next slide, please. How much time left, Kirti, for me? Kirti, how much time?
Sir, you can continue, sir.
I'll take 10 minutes, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
10. Oh, for the first time since the Industrial Revolution, emerging technologies reverse the trend of the fast growing logistics chain. You see, what we are bothered from the time that we entered the army says the logistics chain is too large. For every 1,000 soldiers, if you find 300 people doing the logistics, then probably the combat element is lost. So there is a tremendous amount of pressure on us saying that you should reduce the logistics tail and increase the teething arms, increase the logistic tail and increase the teething arms. This is what we also find it in the cost leverages in the corporate environment. Cost cutting, optimization, and where the work is done by two people do dual trade. So what is the now the trend is that using the same resources, as you teach in the management, we talk about land, labor, and capital, the three components. Similarly here, we want to deliver the same punch. We want to deliver the same punch with the lesser amount of resources. The fast pace is to take 2 days, we do it in 2 hours. So that's what we said, that the tail of the logistics should come down and the teeth should be able to open up further. If I cut a soldier in the logistics department and give him to the fighting soldiers, then he'll be too pleased to see that another soldier has joined shoulder to shoulder with me to fight. So that is what the trend is. In the case of industrial revolution that has taken place, now it is going to take place again and be taking place here. We have so many committees who saying that reduce the non-fighting force, reduce the non-fighting forces, people all together. So you find that thing happening there. And that is what is the ever-growing demand of the nation. And who can provide this leverage? Who can provide this particular leverage? Those are the people in the university, those young, brilliant students who are here with us. Those are the people who decide that, yes, I will provide the technologies required where you can shut down one man, you can combine new activities, you can produce more, you can merge, you can produce sport technologies. All these things can be done if the technologies which are there in the incubation centers of the university or anywhere else of the research places, we have to do it. So this seminar is absolutely very, very relevant and absolutely comprehensively covers the nation's dire need and demand. We say that brains are there and in the resources are there, but we are unable to tell them that there is a requirement of this component and this is what is being imported from there. Gentlemen, when I realized we were running the snow scooters in the glaciers, snow scooters, and it is imported one, and the engine oil has to be changed. And we realized that the engine oil had to take around 3 months time lead time by the time war would have been over. And finally the people said, sir, ये वो देख के ऐसे करके बोलते सर ये तो टूटी ही लगता है सर, टूटी is an oil which you put it in the diesel the scooters. And the mechanic says, बोलते ये diesel is. When he checked up with the lab there in Delhi, he says, you can use a tutti oil for this. The innovative brains have really helped us to figure out how to go about doing this. So you want to use research supplements or research supplement for all these things. I'm able to give you this idea because I want that you people should be able to know that the logistics play a key role, and the logistics be able to give the large amount of leverage to the fighting troops when you are able to use all the technologies which are there. And technologies, each technology has been covered wonderfully in the ICD in the different tracks, wonderfully covered in every aspect of it. I'm only talking about the macro level. In the macro level, I've explained to you, I can give you a lot of figures in the crores of money that is being spent on the various components, but that is not relevant. I want you to get the philosophy imbibed into your brains. That the little innovation that you do, that to become a technology, and you get a patent, you get an IPR, then it move forward, and then the name comes to the student, the faculty, the dean, the director, the university authorities, everybody shares the accolades that the university has it. I always say that as a teacher, I always say that if somebody is going there, oh, that guy is too good in OR, that guy is too good in market research. He made a brand for himself, he made a halo effect for him. My professor, when I used to get, when Dr. Yan used to teach us, he says, that guy, oh, he's too good, he's too good. He used to tell me that there is a brand that has been created. I always say that's the branding image that he said that you have to develop. Similarly, I am trying to tell you that the defense logistics are a big vacuum. And more, you go to the corporate environment, you find a phenomenal change. You look at Future Group, you look at Amazon, Amazon's basic movement into the Fortune 500 companies is basically is leveraging of its IT. It's leveraged its IT and moved 3 notches ahead. And the Jap at the 498 position in the Fortune 500 is waiting, is restlessly wondering, if I don't use technology, I'll slip into 501. He's out of the 500 Fortune companies at all. He's in tenterhooks. So if you don't leverage this technology, somebody else will do it. And that's going to be, if we don't use the technology, then our neighbors will use it, and probably we will find it very difficult to fight a combat war with them. Gentlemen, now combat is not missiles. It is all the computer consoles. It's a computer consoles which has been operated by lady officers and ladies sitting in their caravans in the forward area or anywhere in the world. Like today in this country, we have the online, everything is online. So you will find that logistics, you don't have to really go there. It moves so seamlessly and full of velocity there and transparency there. So I would try to tell you that I could cover up each of the components of the Army, Navy, and Air Force. That requires a different amount of time. I'm ready to invest. I would like to come and sit with people and invest and tell them that I will take them point to point where you have to scratch and tell me, sir, here is the technology I'll develop in the next 5 years and I'll give it to you. This is a very circumventing process and we should be able to speed it up. Okay, next. I'm finished now. Next, quickly. I've told you the tenets of it. I told you the principles of it. I told you the guiding principles of it. Green technologies, artificial intelligence, and robotics. And there you are, robotics is everywhere today. And the technology is there in front of us. But you are, in order to apply to you, I have to take you to the front, into the frontiers of the nation. Sitting in Meerut or Delhi is another issue, and sitting at Baramulla, sitting at Karu or Keri in Ladakh is a different issue altogether. Only when you see that this is a very archaic way. People say that, how the army is doing like this, is still using the torsion bar technology. They keep wondering. But so now the gap is going to cover, and then Dr. Yadav has taken a lot of initiative to make sure all these beautiful brains merge, emerge, and deploy, and give the strength to the army and to the military, navy, and air force. And this university will be the hallmark in these activities. Next. Okay. Thank you. Next. Yeah, if you have any questions for my answers, please ask. जिस जवाब का मेरे पास सवाल है तो पूछ लेते हैं. Gentlemen, feel free to ask me. I have a vast experience in logistics, 40 years of experience, teaching supply chain 10 years. I have a lot of vast experience in strategy, international business, supply chains, project management.
Participants can ask a question.
Yeah, let them ask freely, whatever they wish to. You have any student from any background, you can ask me. People from the army background or from the navy background, anybody. Shalom. Thank you so much, Dr. Yadav.
Brigadier,
it's been a wonderful.
well, Brigadier Raj Kumar, you have so precious combination of so many things, the defense and the money. And, of course, you have shared your most practical experience, I must say. And naturally, you have got such a vast and terrific experience. Many times in one-to-one talk with me, you shared about Kargil, the movement of convoys. There are many things which, of course, remains behind the curtain, and they need not to be shared. But the terrific, the speed, and so many other things which matter the most in forces, I have really experienced that. See, I was having at least 4 to 5 years with you, and I have really felt that I have experienced that environment which is so violent in defense forces. Well, I must put on record my deep sense of gratitude for the Brigadier Kumar for sharing your views and experience. I know you can talk for hours together on this particular issue, and maybe that we can exclude seminar on this particular topic which you talked about. Thank you very much. We are and obliged. Have you very much, Brigadier?
Thank you, sir. I'm honored. I'm humbled. Thank you so very much. Okay, Kirti, thank you so much for all the support,
Over to
for the
Kirti.
guidance.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite our second speaker of this track, Mr. Anand Prakash. Mr. Anand Prakash is currently working as Scientist D at DRDO Institute for System Studies and Analysis at Delhi. His research area include data mining, geographical information system modeling and simulation, and design patterns in software engineering. He has 12 years of experience in defense technologies used in DRDO Ministry of Defense. He has done his BTech in computer science and engineering from KNIT Sultanpur and MTech in computer science and engineering from Delhi Technological University, Delhi. He has also published many research papers in Scopus and SCI Index, national and international journals and conferences. Today, he is going to deliver his talk on GIS in defense technologies. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Anand Prakash to start his talk.
Very good
So
afternoon.
please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Let me upload my slides.
Yes.
Okay. Very good afternoon to all dignities, participants, and organizers. It is great honor to me for giving me this opportunity to present a topic on geographic information system in defense technologies. So as we start right from here, this is my first slide. I'm drawing. Let me do. Okay. You can see the diagram which is being shown in inverted cone. Okay, this is my first diagram that I want to share with you, and it will give you the feel of GIS, that how the operations in GIS is directly proportional to the amount of work that has to be done in GIS. In this diagram, you can see a person is climbing up, is trying to climb up. Okay, and there are a few operations like visualize, digitize, analyze. Okay, so you can see to visualize, you have to spend less amount of work done. To digitize is more than analyze. It's a big amount of work that has to be done. Okay, so this is the GIS. Giving you the example, GIS-based software like Google Maps. Every now and then in our daily routine, we use it, and almost every defense software nowadays, it is based on GIS. And GIS basically gives you decision-making power. Okay. And very good example, if I want to give you, surgical strike. You might be aware of the surgical strike. That was not less than a mission planning, and it was entirely based on GIS software that used high resolution satellite images. So what is the motivation for using this? Sorry. What is the motivation of using GIS in defense technology? Defense technology mainly uses GIS for decision-making tool. It works as a decision-making tool. In this diagram, you can see I have taken this example, this photograph from digital globe. This is world view data. And the two partitions, first is 30 centimeter data, and the second one is the 15-meter data. Here you can easily make out the difference between 30 centimeter data and the 15-meter data. Why we are using satellite images for mission planning? Okay. In this diagram, you can see when you have high resolution data, it is very easy to make out every small feature in the map. While in the 15-meter data, when you try to find out or download a data from open source, you will find data around 10 meter or more. For finer data, you have to purchase the data, like Worldview or Partnership 3 data in Indian Department of Space. I think they have the capability to produce 30 centimeter data, which is being used in defense technologies. So GIS software are mainly are being used for transforming this geospatial data into information. Now, what is geospatial data? A data which contains location, spatial location, or spatiotemporal data. And from that, we derive some conclusions. User has to feed a certain type of spatial queries to the software. GIS is basically, if you look at the GIS as a software, so it transforms geospatial data or set of queries into information. And that information will be used for mission planning or the structural analysis or various fields in defense technologies that we want to use. I'm giving you this example. One friend of mine, he is using computational fluid dynamics. In computational fluid dynamics, he was supposed to use geographical location of a city. I've shown geographical location of the city through this GIS software, and he has to perform computational fluid dynamics over this geographical region. So my work was, how do I transform entire geography into some file or certain format so that it can be fed to the computational fluid dynamic softwares. So I use GIS software. GIS software is heavily used. I'm telling you, heavily used for defense technologies. And in this diagram, you can see for structural analysis, the legend shows the portions which have been exposed by the nuclear fallout. And other softwares can be used for transforming any information which is related to surface nearby Earth. So coming to basically, I will be covering basic concepts of GIS, some elements of GIS, types of GIS data, a few examples, GIS-based applications which are currently being used in defense and other industries. So what does GIS stands for? GIS means Geographic Information System, which is a type of horoscope of entire Earth, or it is a science of nearby Earth, a surface nearby Earth. So there is difference between science and system. System, if we talk about GIS system, we mainly talk about the hardware, software, people, procedures, and data. These are main stakeholders in the GIS system. But as a science, we talk about the theory behind for solving spatial problems with computer systems and those things. Philosophical things we cover in the GIS science. In detail, I have outlined over here that GIS science allows us to consider the philosophical and ontological context of geographical information, and GIS system provide the infrastructure tools and methods for tracking real-world problems within acceptable time frames. So this is the difference. Here you can make out what is science and what is the system. So if you go by the literal meaning, what is literal meaning? Literal meaning says what is the meaning of geographic, the meaning of information, system, and science. Geographic relates to surface of that I have already spoken to you. Information, we all know that meaningful data is the information that comes from the geospatial data. The question arises, how do you create the geospatial data? Geospatial data can be created using GPS, can be generated through remote sensing, can be generated through paper maps. Okay, and the system means the software system. Software is nothing, or you can visualize software as a mechanism that transform input domain into output domain. The input domain is the geospatial data, and the output domain is the information that we want to fetch from the system. The science is the observation, identification, description, experimental investigation, and all those things. So the functional definition, if we try to understand what is the functional definition and what are the components. GIS is a system for inputting, storing, manipulating, analyzing, and reporting data. Actually, it works on geospatial data. You can store data, manipulate data, analyze data, and you can report data. Component definition in GIS is an organized collection of computer, hardware, software, geographic data, procedures, and personal design to handle all phases of geographic data, capture, storage, analyze, query, display, and output. These are operations that you can carry with the GIS software. In this diagram, I have shown the previous one, the functions of GIS and the components of GIS. These are three functions that you can collect data, store data, output data, and components of GIS may include images, statistical reports, statistics, tabular data, maps, and the maps. Let me go ahead. So these are mainly the stakeholders of GIS software: people, data, software, hardware, procedures, or methods. Now, what do you mean by people? Anyone who is using GIS software will fall into this category, because it is the people, it is the user that actually create the data, that create certain queries to the GIS software and try to find out few information from the software. Data in GIS, we mainly talk about geospatial data, that is data which is related to surface of Earth or nearby surface of Earth. In principle, we talk about geographic data, but nowadays we say it is geospatial data. The reason behind this that we have broadened up the definition of geographic to spatial data. Any data which is related to any space, it may be inside the body, human body, it may be anywhere, any part of the space. It may be used as geospatial data, but we mainly consider data which consists of geospatial location which is nearby the Earth or the surface of Earth. So data is the basic thing which is a measure of the quality of GIS software. If you have high resolution data, accuracy of data actually decides the quality. If you have accurate data, then you will have definitely will have the good results. And if you talk about Google Map, and if you think of what will be the accuracy of Google Map, if you have noticed that Google Map will give you geo-point location with the accuracy of almost 100 meters. Now you can imagine 100 meter and where 100 meter falls and where 30 centimeter resolution falls. So if you have high resolution data, then definitely you will have good results. These are a few examples whereby you can create data. So what is GIS software? It encompasses not only to the GIS package, but all the software used for databases, drawings, statistics, and imaging. It is the functionality of the software used to manage the GIS, determines the type of problems that the GIS may be used to solve. And popular GIS softwares are mainly, there are two categories: vector-based GIS and the raster-based GIS. There are a few examples of vector-based GIS like ArcGIS, which comes from Esri, ArcView, Map, Info. The raster-based GIS means those GIS which mainly focus on manipulation of images, creation of images. And these are the examples: ADAS imaging, NB, LVS. What do you mean by the hardware as a stakeholder in the GIS software? Hardware means the type of hardware determines to an extent the speed at which a GIS will operate. If you have good hardware, definitely it will give the output at a faster rate. Additionally, it may influence the type of software used. To a small degree, it may influence the types, personalities of the people working with the GIS. And this is the diagram I have just shown to visualize what kind of software hardwares that have been employed in GIS. And the procedures or the methods. These procedures are used to input, analyze, query data, determine the quality and validity of the final product. Actually, these are algorithms which runs behind a GIS software. I give you one example. For example, now suppose if you want to find out number of people which are being which you can give you the example of let's say people surrounding a hospital. Now, suppose if you know the location of a hospital and if you find out how many people are, being affected if a bomb will be dropped on the hospital, if you want to find out the casualty, in this case, you would like to have this kind of query that how many people will be affected by this bomb. Then this kind of a spatial query will be fed to the software, and buffer zone, that is a type of algorithm. It will run behind the GIS software. It will produce the result, and it will give the exact information that how many number of people will be dead, will be injured, and will be alive. So these are the procedures which mainly drives the GIS software. Sorry. Types of GIS data. I have already spoken that types are mainly vector, raster, and attribute. Vector data is mainly in terms, you can think of vector data in terms of points, lines, and polygons. You can draw a map. If you try to prepare a map, you can draw point, lines, polygons to represent any feature of this world. So these are basically vector data. And the raster data is basically array of cells. These cells are basically pixels. Value of pixel represents the feature type in the real world. So in the subsequent slide, I'll be covering in detail what is raster, what is vector. And the attribute values in GIS are stored as relational database tables. I give you one example. Now suppose if you want to capture height of building, then how do we do it? Because latitude, longitude, these are spatial information. And height is not any spatial information. Is it in a spatial information? How do you store? Then there is a trick. You can store height, this value, with latitude, longitude, and some formats like CSV files. So attribute is basically a relational table, a relational database, wherein you can put height as an attribute, and you can keep the height value along with the latitude, longitude. I'm giving you an example of save files. But in some raster files like GeoT files, geotag file information. So GeoT file is geo-referenced. Geo-reference means every information contains location of the feature object. Okay, and it saves the information basically like fields in the database. So raster file or GeoT file can also be saved in a database or in a relational database or in the object relational database. Nowadays we are using object relational database like PostgreSQL or Oracle SQL. These databases are being heavily used for storing vector data, raster data with attributes. So this is the diagram whereby I have tried to show how reality is actually pictured in GIS. There are layers. Actually, a GIS software is collection of layer. A layer is one type of feature. Feature means for identifying any object in real world, you should have some distinguishable, collection of attributes. For example, if I am showing all the hospital in the map through point, so point will be a feature. Okay, so this way, I mean, in the form of layers, we try to store the information to represent reality in GIS software. This is what I was talking about, how raster data is being represented, how raster data is being saved. Raster data is basically a rectangular array. Array means the pixel value. Each pixel value represents a value which relates to some information of any observation which is under consideration. And the vector data means you are trying to picture everything in terms of line, point, polygons, or mathematical concepts. So this is another example how raster data actually is being saved in the form of row column. This is the tabular form, wherein row column means the position of a cell, position of a pixel. And suppose in the last column, if you see, I have written 1 and 19. Row value is 1 and the column value is 19, and the value stored, which is being stored, is 101. So 101 represents this attribute. So this way raster data is being saved in database or any file type. And the similar way vector data can also be saved in the file type or the database. Examples of GIS applications. Let me give you a few examples. First of all, let us talk about the framework for GIS analysis. This is the slide has been taken from Israel. They practice as this framework that is being used for analyzing the GIS software. The step one is ask a question. You should have a set of questionnaires with you that you want to ask from GIS software. Then step two is acquiring the knowledge. Then examining whether you have got the exact value or not. Analyzing. Then acting. In this diagram, I have shown that these 5 stakeholders like methods, people, data, software, hardware, they are combined. They work as a system to give you the desired output. This example is a real-world example I have taken from ISRI website, and it is being used for suitability analysis for the best site for a new school. Now, suppose you have a problem. Problem is what? You want to find out best site for a new school. So these are some criteria. You have to define some criteria, like near recreational facilities is one of the criteria, away from existing school, then on relatively flat land or stable land use. So these are the criteria you want to, apply for your choice. So based on the criteria, these are few procedures that we have previously discussed. Procedures, the methods. You have to calculate distance. These are actually algorithms which are run by software, GIS software. So you have to calculate distance. You may have to calculate slope. You may have to calculate aspect. You may have to calculate area. Okay, and likewise, you will save the result into the database. So this way, you have actually got the information that you want to get from your questionnaire. So problem domain is being transformed into solution domain, and it has given you a decision-making power. Okay, it has enabled you so that you can take decision. What kind of place will be used or most suitable place for creating my school? This is another example. This example shows how the GIS software can be used to analyze population density. Population density can be used for many purposes. That I have already given you an example. If you want to calculate, if you want to go for damage analysis on a certain area, then you must have the population density values for every region. Against every region, you should have population density. And GIS software can be used to calculate the area or the overlapping areas, and defining the area, multiplying by the density. Density, by the way, if we define into dimension, number of people per unit area. If you multiply the value with the density, you will get exact number of people which is being affected by any any kind of bomb or lethal device. This is another example of GIS application which is being used for study of water erosion vulnerability. I'm sorry, I think it's not properly legible. Maybe landslide risk mapping we sometimes use These are few references. So before ending up or wrapping up, let me explain a few more things about GIS software. Why every other software nowadays is using GIS software, because everyone want to transform geospatial data in some way or the other way and try to get the information which may be used as per your requirement. It may not necessary that you always go for surgical strike. Now, suppose if you consider an example of Ola Cab, sorry. So Ola Cab is heavily using this GIS software for giving you facility for you know uh, for getting the pickup location, for giving you the drop location, and for visualizing the exact path through which driver is taking you from. And there certainly there will be some other application then you can always think of in your mind, and that can easily be solved by using GIS software. So you should have the basic GIS knowledge. You should have the knowledge of basic knowledge of graphics and some kind of gaming engine in some cases. If you club those things, if you club all the domain knowledge, then you will definitely develop a GIS software through open source technologies. And we are currently working on open source technologies to develop a GIS software by our own in our in-house capability. We have the in-house capability to create GIS-based softwares. Thank you very much, and thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. That's all.
Well, thank you very much,
Sorry.
Anand Prakash ji. You have
Sorry for the disturbance. Sorry for the interruption. Sorry, sir. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yadav sir, your voice is not audible, sir. You are not audible, sir.
Things are not moving actually.
Yes.
Nothing is coming on my screen. I'm not
No,
sure.
sir, no.
so tell me, am I audible?
Yes,
right
sir.
now?
Yes, sir. Now you are audible, sir.
Okay. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Anand Prakash ji for sharing his views and experiences, particularly on such an interesting topic, GIS, defense technologies. Two extreme examples Prakash ji cited. One was of bombardment in Pakistan, which was given a popular name, as he told. And then, of course, cited another example of Ola, something for very, very peaceful uses. There must be so many other examples, because when you fire a missile from a moving plane and then you hit to a moving object or to a stationary object, and then you have every minute detail in the form of photographs available, and when you can even think of pinpointing, the accuracy with which you can hit an object. I think that can definitely be a part of it. So, Sri Anand Prakash ji, I must thank you. We have all the gratitude for you for sparing your time and then sharing your scientific knowledge with our participants, with the faculty of this great university, Gautam Buddha University. And as you know, it is a joint venture of School of Information and Communication Technology and School of Engineering. So Once again, thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Kirti.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir.
Over to you, Kirti.
Thank you so much, sir.